What is up, Rose? Me, Josh here, and welcome to episode 7 of World of Warships for Beginners, my series where we're diving into the basics of setting up an account all the way to the advanced stuff at the end and everything in between to make you a better World of Warships player in general. And in last episode, we went over the different classes in the game, the destroyers, the cruisers, the battleships, and the CVs, trying to help explain the strengths and weaknesses of each of those ships and which ones you might like more and which ones you might like to focus on. Today, we are focusing on a very important topic, and it is ammo types. So there are 2 ammo types in the game: high explosive and armor piercing. So before I get blown up in the comments, this is going to be a very basic overview of class by class on which ones are going to be better in most situations. This is going to be very broad and very brief and just easy to go over for the new players. If you guys have been playing, you're probably between that tier 4 and tier 5 of each of the classes, been able to check them out and trying to figure out which ones you like. So as you go up, this is what we're going to basically focus on. Now, I will do a video later in this series over the more advanced stuff, like as in situations of the higher tier things, as in ships that require inertia fuse, and when there's the right situation of overmatch and stuff like that. That's something we're not going to go over today. We're just going over the pure basics of which ships will benefit more from each ammo in the early tiers, just give you a basic overview of which is just going to be better, and some situations where you can get a little sneaky. So this is going to be a very basic overview of the ammo types. So the 3 classes we're going to go over today: obviously destroyers, which are going to have the smallest caliber, stuff like this just for comparison, 102 millimeters. We're going to be going over the cruisers. They tend to hover around at 152. There are some with less, there are some with more, but right around 152 is pretty average. And then we're going to be diving into the battleships as well. 305s, this can be all over the place. More of the battle cruisers, more of the bigger battleships, over 400. But these are the ships we're going to be focusing on. We'll dive into a training battle, and then we'll show in very basic situations which ammo type is going to benefit you more, and just for the basic showing off of which ammo type to use in certain situations. So here we are in the training room. This is a mode you can actually use if you go up to the random battles, do the drop down. You can actually go in here and actually practice yourself. You can turn on bots, which these all are, that are unarmed and basically just sit there. So we are starting with destroyers. Destroyers, your main ammo is going to be HE. What you want to do with this is you're going to be mainly a torp boat, or you're going to be trying to light fires and try to force those repairs. So against basically everything, HE is going to be your main ammo type. And what I mean by that is just shooting at the Clemson. HE is going to give you the best benefit. Not only does it cause fires, it's also going to break modules, as in torp launchers. You can see the torp launchers in the back. We'll try to get one right there. Actually, I got pretty lucky. But this is overall just the best thing you can do. And as you can see, we knocked out his rudder. He's going to have to be repaired, and we can continue to shoot with HE. Now, there are situations later, again, like we'll do it, where AP is actually a viable thing, stuff with a little bit heavier armor, like stuff like the tier 10s and tier 9s, where AP is a thing. But overall, you'll end up doing more damage on average with HE. It's just going to be a lot more consistent. The alpha damage is there with AP, but especially with how low the health pools are and just the breaking of the modules, what you can end up doing is you see what's called, you get the overpens on the side. The third ribbon over there is actually an overpen. So on average, what you're going to want to be doing with the destroyers is just shooting HE. The damage can be good, but the more consistent way to do damage with these, especially destroyer versus destroyer, is with HE ammo. Not only are you going to be doing good damage, you're going to be lighting them on fire, which will actually increase their detection when they're on fire, and just like that, a little bit more damage. You can also break their torpedo tubes permanently, temporarily, and as well as knocking out their rudder, and down they go. So for destroyer versus destroyer, honestly, I would just stick with HE ammo. It's going to be better for you in the long run until we get to some more advanced stuff, and it'll just make you a better destroyer player in general. If you're playing stuff like the IGN DDs, don't be afraid to use your guns, but remember, you only have so much life, and you don't want to go die. So going against IGN DDs versus something with much better guns, be careful with your engagements, but don't be afraid to use them. So here we are with a destroyer versus a cruiser. So those cruisers are going to tend to be a little bit more armor than a destroyer, but still your primary ammo throughout all of this is going to be HE. You're going to try to just launch those fires, get those fires going, and burn the ships to the ground. But there are situations where AP will actually be viable, not always, but viable against cruisers like this. So same thing though, we're going to be shooting HE against a ship. That was a terrible example because they all went right into the water. Dispersion is a thing, but you're going to basically just be focusing towards the ship, doing that damage, and then lighting them. But as you can see, once we start getting into stuff with bigger armor, higher armor, you're going to start what's doing called shatters, or your shells are actually going to break. This is where you're going to actually start learning how to aim, learning where to aim with other ships. as you can see right here, you can kind of see the difference in hull, and we'll go to the port in a little bit and show you the difference in armors, but you're going to start actually noticing your shells are breaking, and that means that your shells actually don't have enough pen. So what you're going to want to do is get off of this and just raise it a tad higher, because what you're going to want to do is imagine you're trying to light something on fire. This is all metal. The top is going to be wood or light metal where you can actually get on fire. So what you're going to want to do is actually raise your armor raise your aim just a little bit higher. As you can see, there's a penetration hole there, a penetration hole there, and that one broke there. So what you're going to want to do is just aim a little bit higher, try to get that deck lit on fire, the stuff on top, what's called the superstructure. And this is going to want to do. So if I just keep aiming, we'll just kind of aim towards the bottom here. We'll try to aim towards the front, or maybe like right here. And I'll try to show you just if things continue to shatter. Dispersion might not work with me a little bit, but in general, that's going to be it. So as you go, the Phoenix is a pretty lightly armored cruiser, but mainly raise the aim just a little bit. Try to get those fires because you will get those full pens. However, there are situations where AP does come into effect when you're playing against cruisers like this, and this is only when something is extremely broadside or showing a very good broadside, and what you're going to want to do is switch to armor piercing as a destroyer. Not always. You can stick with HE, just burn them to the ground, you'll be plenty successful, but this is where you can get a little cheeky. So if something is this close to you and this broadside, what you can actually do, and this isn't going to work for every cruiser, but definitely in the lower tiers it's going to help, is you can actually aim for citadels with armor piercing. So under each ship, you can actually look into the armor layouts in the port as well, and the basic rule is under each of the smokestacks there's going to be one, under each of the guns is going to be one, and the engines is going to be one. So we're looking for here, we're looking in the middle here, we're looking in the middle here. So what citadels are is basically like ammo racks, you know, where they're going to keep their ammunition, where their engines are. That's basically a citadel. So what you're going to want to do is aim on basic right along the water line. Normally what I try to do is just aim it so it's right in the middle of the ship. So we'll just aim right here, and you're going to want to shoot AP and do what you can, and boom, there's the citadel. So what is the citadel? What is AP going to do? It's more alpha damage overall. Okay, that was a bad example because they all went into the water. More alpha damage overall, but the ability to do more damage per shell. And what you can do is basically just chunk down a cruiser extremely fast. So this is a bit more advanced thing, and it's only going to be in situations where something's sailing broadside, but you do have the ability of getting really big salvos. 2,000, 1,700 a salvo, 2,000 a salvo. This is going to add up when you look at a ship that only has 20,000 life. On a pretty fast reload from a destroyer, especially if you're chilling in smoke, this is going to chunk this ship down pretty quick. If you want to just stay on the safe side and just be more consistent, HE will work fine. But AP, if the situation is there, can work, and you can continue to shoot the AP and then destroy the ship. So very, very basic in cruisers. HE is going to be very consistent and just easy to use, but there are situations where AP is viable if the situation is right. But always be careful when you're that close to have, you know, when you're that close to a ship for AP to be really useful, you're going to be kind of danger close with that ship, and he's going to be able to probably outdo a lot more damage than you are percentage-wise on your ship, but the use is there for armor piercing. So here we have destroyers versus battleships. Now this is going to be your friend and foe, because hopefully he'll be taking lots of torpedoes. But when you have to use your guns, this is what you're going to look for. HE is almost exclusively at these lower tiers going to be your ammo. 99% of the time you'll be using HE, because what you want to do again is force that repair. You force the repair, you can make them take a flooding damage from your torpedo, slowing them down, making them take a lot of damage over time. There are situations where AP is useful, but we won't worry about that until way later, and we'll kind of explain that. But what you want to do is really just focus on HE. So as we talked about with cruisers, they're getting more and more armored. So if you see me kind of shoot along the water line, assuming dispersion works with me, there's going to be almost only shatters, right? Almost only shatters. Battleships are going to be the most armored class in the game, and if I'm just going to continue to shoot, everything's just going to shatter, right? You're only going to be hitting that strong armor on the side. It's made to take hits. It's made to take stuff with full pens. But what did we get right there? 3 shatters. We're not doing any alpha damage, but we did catch a fire. So what you're going to want to do, as you can see, it's just continuing to break, continuing to break. That means our shells are so small that they don't have the penetration value high enough to actually break through the armor. So we're getting 0 damage, but we did get a damage with the fire. But what we want to do is get above that armor. Again, this is HE ammo, so we're basically trying to light things on fire. Steel isn't really going to light on fire in any situation. A flat steel is not going to light on fire. So what we're going to do is we're going to aim for something called the superstructure. So whenever I call something a superstructure, I'm talking about the deck. I'm talking about like the lines, like this little part, the thinner steel, the thinner metal, the wood deck, stuff like that, the boats. So what you want to do is aim for the superstructure. And if we can actually get a salvo here, with the Clemson versus the Wyoming, it'll show you an example of actually starting to do damage. So as you see, we're starting to actually get some pen damage because we've raised our aim and actually going for the superstructure. That's 3 full pens right there. Again, if we aim lower, our shells just aren't going to be able to do enough to actually do any damage. Again, we lit a fire, but we didn't actually penetrate anything. So you want to get a use of that alpha damage and aim for the upper superstructure. As you can see, we're starting to actually do damage because we have enough to just break through that. This is all lighter armored stuff at the top. Obviously, the turrets are going to be extremely armored, but this is the side armor. We can't really do anything like that. So you want to raise it up and start shooting at the superstructure. Now, there are situations, and then I guess a quick rule of thumb is, obviously, if they have 2+ fires on them, what you can do is you can continue to shoot at the superstructure, but you can actually start shooting AP. You'll end up getting a bit more alpha damage, but I guess it's a bit more of an advanced situation. But really, at these lower tiers, you can just stick with HE and you'll be very successful. Again, we're just going to basically shatter anything at these tiers. So sticking with HE against battleships, raising your aim up to hit the superstructure, you will end up burning the battleship to the ground or forcing the repairs, where you can then launch your torps and sink them to the bottom of the sea. But overall, as a DD, especially at this tier, just stick with HE. You'll be against battleships, and you'll be much more successful than trying to AP something down to the ground. So certainly last but not least, we have destroyers versus CVs. These things are going to be basically your counters. CVs' jobs are really to go out and kind of hunt the destroyers. But what you're going to want to do with this is HE is again going to be your primary ammo, because the reason you want to light this ship on fire is that they won't have the ability to launch planes. Now, there has a while ago they added in a skill that even if you are on fire, you can continue to launch planes at a slower speed. But really, a lot of CV players either can't take that because they don't have enough skills, or there are just better skills to take first. So especially in lower tiers, if something is on fire, it's not going to be able to launch torps. So what you're going to want to do again is just focus with HE. CVs are going to be very, very lightly armored, but one thing you're going to do is try to light the deck on fire. So again, try to aim towards the top, do what you can. Of course, we're going to get unlucky here and probably shoot a bunch of shells without actually lighting them on fire. And those ones go right through because it's the Langley. Let's try to aim back here really fast. The Langley is such a goofy looking ship, but what we're going to do is just basically focus on that. Still, just light them on fire. Again, the thing that is going to be the upper armor stuff, this stuff is the lighter and the easier armor to get lit on fire. It's the superstructure area. But one thing that you do want to look for is actually the smokestacks on these things. Again, as we talked about against cruisers, smokestacks are going to be where the citadels are. So what you want to do is basically look in the ascent or look for wherever these smokestacks are and aim for that, because we know the engine is down there. Again, we just sent 2 through the opening. The Langley was probably a bad choice. I probably should have picked the Bogue, but what you're going to do is just continue to focus on this, and then you have the potential of getting citadels. So if the situations aren't right and the game isn't giving you your citadels, what you can do is continue to aim for them. If you're not getting them, what you can do is obviously just switch over to AP. Again, you're going to want to kind of switch to this once this is lit on fire. Once it's lit on fire, he's going to have a hard time launching planes or launching them extremely slowly. And then you can really go in and try to find that citadel. For us, it's basically just not letting us hit citadels. It must know that we're recording a video. There we go. So there's the citadels right there under the smokestacks. We were just getting really unlucky apparently on where our shells were going. Once those citadels, once the AP is going in, you can shred through. Let's see if we can do one more salvo and then maybe light them on fire and get a citadel on top of that. But the main thing you're going to want to do is just keep CVs lit on fire. At lower tiers, they're going to be extremely slow, and if they're lit on fire, not always, there is that skill, as I said. What you can do is you can actually light them on fire and stop the planes. It's not always going to work. Can we get one fire on the deck? The game's just not going to let us. It knows we're recording, so I want to show off something, so it's not going to let me. Thanks a lot, Wargaming. But overall, so let's just do a quick recap. Destroyers versus DDs, you're going to stick with mainly HE. HE is going to break its torp reload, it's torp tubes, it's guns, it's engine, knock out its engine, and stick with HE. You'll light them on fire, and in the end, you'll be more effective. Cruisers, you're going to stick with HE for the main part, but if you do get close enough and the position is right, you can switch to AP and do a lot of damage with the citadels, but that's only going to be if he's giving you a perfect broadside and you can really penetrate the armor. Battleships, you're going to stick with mainly HE, and remember, it's so armored on the sides that you're going to want to lift it up and hit that superstructure and really start burning them to the ground. CVs, sticking with HE, trying to light the deck on fire if it will let you. For us, it's not really liking it. Or if you do get the situation where it is lit on fire and is constantly burning, you can start burning them a bit faster and getting them down by switching to AP and trying to find that citadel. So this was a quick little overview of the ammo types versus ships for destroyers. The next episode will go over the Phoenix, and hopefully that will help you guys out. But I really hope this whole series is helping everyone out. I've been getting a lot of positive feedback that's helping a lot of players, and I hope this will kind of enlighten you guys on which ammos to do. Just again, keep in mind this is very basic. Of course, there are situations where other armor types, and there's more in depth we can definitely go. But just for the pure basic player and the newer player, I think this is just a good overall reasons and rules to just follow, and I think it'll make you a better player overall. But anyways, guys, that's it for me and this episode of World of Warships Beginners, the ammo types using against ships for destroyers. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Remember to like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.